Welcome back to more Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Last time, we completed the Lucky Cat Cup, so this time, we're moving on to Wave 2 of the Booster Course Pass. Before I said I wanted to play as Rosalina or Yoshi because they're my mains, but I actually realized something. We never played as Waluigi in the original playthrough, and there's no time like the present. We're sticking with the same kart setup as usual, and next up, we have the Turnip Cup. First up, we have New York Minute from Mario Kart Tour. A very interesting track, as a lot of the Tour courses are, but in some ways I don't think it stands out as much, partly because the gimmick is less special this time, because this is the third time they've done this gimmick. We have a bustling city with a ton of cool signs as decorations. I'm questioning how Donkey Kong has a musical. But starting out, we have to drive through Central Park. One cool detail in Wave 2 is tires will actually pick up dirt and sand when driving in off-road sections. And this has actually been retroactively added to courses like Choco Mountain from Wave 1. Other improvements to Wave 1 in this patch include the Shy Guys in Coconut Mall will actually drive around like they used to, and in addition to driving back and forth in the parking lot, they'll also occasionally perform donuts, making them even more difficult to avoid than in the original. So yeah, now we're going a slightly different route. We're still kind of going through the park. I'm not the biggest fan of like jazz music, so I feel like this song is not one of my favorites. But it definitely captures the sort of like New York atmosphere very well. We also have this little glide section, and we have a little bus there we can trick off of. We also have these cars, but these aren't moving, so luckily they're not too difficult to avoid. I don't think they even like spin us out if we run into them, which is kind of nice. If I'm not mistaken, this patch also improved some other things, or made some things worse, depending on who you ask. If I recall correctly, I want to say that the patch notes mentioned that item boxes and coins will actually respawn slightly faster than they used to, which I've actually noticed already, because I feel like there are a lot more items in some of my early attempts at practicing these courses. It definitely makes a lot of these races feel a lot more hectic, which, depending on who you ask, could either be fun, because Mario Kart is kind of about chaos, and it can also be very frustrating if you're right at the finish line and get hit by Blue Shell. Speaking from personal experience, this happened multiple times in my practice runs of these courses. Next up is Mario Circuit 3 from Super Mario Kart. A very interesting track that's actually appeared in multiple entries. I think this was in Mario Kart Wii, but I'm actually not sure if I'm misremembering. I'm trying to remember if it was Mario Circuit 3 or a different one, Mario Kart Wii. But I know this one obviously wasn't Tour because this is the Tour version. But it was also in Mario Kart Super Circuit, which was actually my first experience with the SNES tracks. So yeah, this has actually been in quite a few games. I think this course is actually pretty okay. In terms of terrain, it's very flat, like a lot of the other Super Nintendo courses, but I feel like the layout is actually tricky enough that it's still somewhat interesting. I say as I careen off the road, some of these turns are actually slightly difficult to deal with, so even though it is a very flat course, it still is somewhat tricky, which I kind of like. Still, out of the Super Nintendo tracks, I almost feel like this is not the most exciting, partly because it's been in so many games. We'll get to an example of a track that hasn't been in many games at a later time. But yeah, I just feel like I'm getting hit by shells a lot more than I used to, and I kind of feel like that might be because of the item rebalancing. again, as someone who likes to get 3 stars in all of these cups, it's not the best thing in the world, but I feel like for multiplayer especially, it might be more fun actually having more frantic items, especially with frantic items turned on. I can't imagine how much chaos there would be. So yeah, in general, I do feel like this course is still enjoyable, but kind of like Toad's Circuit, I feel like this is probably one of the weaker tracks because it's so simplistic. But in some ways, I actually kind of like the simplicity because it contrasts some of the more like ambitious tracks in the same DLC wave. I might not win this one, depending on what items we get. We might not be able to sneak past and reclaim first in time. Let's see how this goes. We might be cutting this a little bit close. Yeah, I think we're actually fine. Barely won. I can't promise I'll be getting first in all these races, partly because of the AI being so much more aggressive. There are a couple tracks that I consistently struggle with in Wave 2. Next is Calamari Desert from Mario Kart 64. As someone who has very little knowledge of this game, this is actually one of my favorite tracks from Wave 2. I think this is a pretty solid track in its own right, but also has some unique gimmicks to set it apart from the other retro tracks so far, which you can already see on the minimap. The minimap is kind of a mess. Kind of more like some of the tour tracks, because this is treated more like a tour track. We also have some added boosts, like this glide ramp over here, so let's just fly over here. Recently, I've been having trouble with tricks. Like, for some reason, I've been really mistiming tricks, and that's definitely not been helping me struggling through these tracks, because I'm getting fewer boosts, which is not great. Alright, so we're coming up on the finish line. I was just going to say, I thought I saw a shadow behind me, which was very ominous. Yeah, I do feel like this is a track, for example, where the AI is constantly directly on my tail in a way that I don't usually experience with 150cc. Definitely more so with 200cc, but yeah, not with 150. So I do feel like it is a lot more difficult. Barely got a banana in time, but now we have this little ramp. Mario Kart Tour really likes these ramps to kind of add in new sections to existing levels, and this is an example of that. In Mario Kart 8 itself, we are now driving on the train tracks, and this is actually the end of lap 2. So now lap 3 actually takes place mostly in the train tunnel. We have to actually be careful not to run into the train. I guess, yeah, there it is. So let's quickly duck off of the train tracks and back on the main path. So yeah, Calamari Desert I feel like is almost a sort of no-frills track, kind of like Super Nintendo Mario Kart or Mario Circuit 3. But having the little detour to the train tracks does us a lot of favors in terms of spicing it up and making it actually a pretty creative track. So yeah, this is probably top 3 for me. This isn't my absolute favorite of this set, but it's definitely up there. It also looks really pretty. I like sunset levels in games, so again, as someone with no nostalgia for this game, I like this a lot. And finally, we have Waluigi Pinball from Mario Kart DS, a fan-favorite track. But this version is actually slightly polarizing, kind of like Coconut Mall. When you have a really popular track, I think fans are more picky about how it's actually implemented. Some things are actually implemented really well. So for example, when you pick up items and coins, you actually have a unique sound compared to the other tracks. Which I think is true to the original. One issue is there's actually a sound effect missing at the end of the track, and also the song is not original, which is actually the only example of this in the entire game. This is the only track that reuses an existing song from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Previously, when 2 tracks would use the same song, there would be slightly different remixes for each song. So yeah, this is sort of, in a way, disappointing, but I actually really like the Wario Stadium version in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so I actually really don't mind. But as you pass through here, a sound is supposed to play. It plays in basically every other version of Waluigi Pinball, but doesn't play in this version. Hopefully, by Wave 3, they can add this back in, since they did add in some stuff to Wave 1's tracks that were missing. So yeah, here's hoping that they can add that in when Wave 3 drops. But overall, I really like the aesthetic of the stage. It's very like neon, kind of like New York Minute. It kind of makes sense putting these together, actually, and it is suitably gaudy for Waluigi's like style. Also the reason why I decided, hey, let's actually play as Waluigi finally, despite not having played him in the main playthrough. I'm actually not the biggest fan of Waluigi as a character. I feel like he's a character who's actually cool, but is also a little bit overhyped. So yeah, I'm kind of more neutral to Waluigi as a result. But yeah, I will admit I do like this stage a lot. Mario Kart DS was actually really cool because it actually had a more single-player focus. It actually had a mission mode, which was really cool, where you could basically like do challenge races, kind of like what ended up being a lot of the side missions in Tour, actually, like going through rings and doing things like that. But there were even like boss races against like, you know, Wiggler, King Goomba from Paper Mario. I think I talked about this during Shroom Ridge, actually, but it's also been like, what, 4 to 5 months? So yeah, I kind of forgot that. Yeah, I think I already talked about that. So yeah, we're actually coming up at the end. I'm getting very concerned because we haven't seen any blue shells. I'd rather see a blue shell at the beginning, because then you have a chance to make a comeback, rather than at the end, where you're kind of out of luck if you basically get blindsided by a blue shell at the last minute. There's no way to really recover. Despite getting hit by the pinball twice, we somehow still got first place. I am very surprised, again, given that this is a stage that gave me a ton of trouble in my practice runs. So I am kind of impressed that it went as smoothly as it did. And that concludes the Turnip Cup. Overall, I feel like this first cup makes a much better first impression than the first cup of Wave 1, partly because of, like, it kind of follows a similar template with a city track, then kind of a straightforward race with Toad Circuit and Mario Circuit 3, but I do like Calamari Desert and Waluigi Pinball a lot, so I do generally prefer this cup. And we even got a full score of 60 points and 3 stars. So yeah, overall it went really well, actually. Way better than I was expecting, to be honest. But the next cup actually gives me even more trouble, so we'll have to see how that goes next time. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for more Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.